George Reeves' murder was never the mystery Hollywood claimed it to be. The truth was known the moment it happened, and the person who committed it confessed before she died. June 16, 1959, at 1:30 in the morning, a call came into the Beverly Hills Police Department. The voice was calm, too calm for someone reporting a death. There's been a shooting at 1579 Benedict Canyon Drive. George Reeves is dead. For a second, the dispatcher hesitated. George Reeves, Superman, the man millions of children believed could actually fly, dead from a gunshot wound. 15 minutes later, officers stepped into a house, frozen in an eerie quiet. Upstairs, George Reeves lay on his bed wearing only pajama bottoms, a bullet wound in his right temple, and a German Luger on the floor between his feet. Downstairs, 4 people sat drinking cocktails as if nothing had happened. They'd been in the house when the gun went off. They'd heard everything. They waited 45 minutes before calling anyone. 8 days later, the LAPD closed the case. They said George Reeves took his own life-stalled career. Money problems, frustration, depression. The story was neat, believable, and completely false. That official report didn't explain the 2 unexplained bullet holes in the floor, fired months earlier. It didn't explain why his fiancée predicted his death 30 minutes before it happened. It didn't explain why she waited 45 minutes to call for help, or why the gun was wiped clean of fingerprints. It didn't explain the bruises on his arms, chest, and head bruises that happened before he died. And it didn't explain why modern forensic experts concluded in 2019 that the position of his body was physically impossible. This wasn't a man who ended his own life. This was murder, protected by the most powerful studio in Hollywood. George Reeves wasn't born to play Superman. He was born to be a serious actor. Born in Iowa in 1914, he dreamed of being the next Clark Gable. He appeared in Gone with the Wind, signed with Warner Brothers, acted in war movies and westerns. Then World War II interrupted everything. When he returned, Hollywood had moved on without him. By the early 1950s, he was nearly broke. Then came the offer for a TV show, Adventures of Superman. It was career suicide for any film actor. But he needed money. He took the role, and it changed everything. America fell in love with him. 35 million people watched every week. He became a hero to children around the world. But fame didn't bring freedom. It trapped him. Directors refused to cast him in serious roles. No one saw George Reeves anymore. They only saw Superman. He was famous but broke, beloved but ignored, adored but creatively suffocated. And then, in 1951, he met a woman who would eventually destroy him, Toni Mannix, wife of Eddie Mannix, the most feared fixer in MGM's history. Toni wasn't just any woman. She was the wife of the man who solved Hollywood's worst scandals. Eddie Mannix was connected to police chiefs, coroners, newspapers, and mobsters like Mickey Cohen. When things needed to disappear, Eddie made them disappear. Toni and Eddie had an open marriage. Eddie had mistresses everywhere, and Toni chose George as hers. What began as an affair quickly became ownership. She bought George a house, a Jaguar, his furniture, paid his bills, covered his debts. Every major thing he owned was in her name. For 8 years, George lived in a cage disguised as luxury. In 1958, everything changed. George fell in love with another woman, Leonore Lemon. She was younger, wild, sharp-tongued, and everything Toni wasn't. George told Toni it was over. He wanted to marry Leonore. Toni's response chilled everyone who heard her. He'll regret this. He'll pay for what he's done. Soon, strange things began happening. George's brakes failed twice. Brake fluid fully drained. His home was broken into, but nothing was stolen. He told friends he felt watched, followed, hunted. He told more than one friend, Toni might try to have me killed. She's crazy enough, and Eddie has the power to make it happen. But he didn't go to the police. Who in 1959 would listen? Then came June 15, 1959, the night George Reeves died. That evening, he and Leonore argued loudly about money and marriage. Around 10:30, George went upstairs to bed. Leonore stayed downstairs drinking. Then, strangely, she turned the porch light on a sign in certain Hollywood circles that guests were welcome. Within minutes, people arrived, drinking and laughing in George's living room while he was upstairs trying to sleep. George came down once, irritated, telling them to quiet down. Leonore mocked him. He went back upstairs. Near 1 a.m., Leonore made a statement that froze the entire room. He's going upstairs now. Everyone stared. She continued, he's been saying all week, he's going to do it. Watch. They heard a drawer open upstairs. There, she said calmly. He's getting the gun out of the drawer. Seconds later, a gunshot echoed through the house. Glass shattered on the floor. Silence filled the room. Leonore took a sip of her drink and said, "See, I told you." No one ran upstairs. No one called police. For 45 minutes, they sat in confusion while Leonore poured another drink. Finally, someone went upstairs to check. George lay flat on his back, perfectly positioned, arms at his sides, legs straight, something that never happens in a gunshot death. The gun lay neatly between his feet. Blood pooled under his head. The scene looked staged because it was. When police arrived, Leonore sat calmly on the couch with a fresh drink in her hand. Asked why she waited so long to call, she shrugged. We needed time to process. But she hadn't looked shocked when the gun went off. She looked prepared. Inside the bedroom, nothing made sense. The body position was impossible. A person shot in the head collapses violently, not neatly arranged. The bullet trajectory pointed upward at a steep angle, only possible if someone standing fired downward toward his temple. The gun was wiped clean of fingerprints, every single one. 2 older bullet holes were in the floor, never investigated. The shell casing was under his body, something that almost never happens. And George had bruises on his arms, chest, and face injuries from a struggle before the gunshot. Despite all of this, the LAPD closed the case in 8 days. No powder test on George's hands. No ballistics test. No separation of witnesses. No questioning of Toni Mannix, the very woman George believed might kill him. Why? Because Eddie Mannix made one phone call. Records later revealed MGM was paying Beverly Hills detectives consulting fees. The lead detective on George's case received $12,000 from MGM. That same year, the same amount as his annual salary. George's body was released, embalmed, and cremated before independent experts could examine it. Physical evidence was destroyed forever. But some things couldn't be buried. Deathbed confessions emerged. Forensic experts studied surviving photographs. MGM files leaked, and all of it pointed to one conclusion. George Reeves did not take his own life. He was murdered, and Hollywood's most powerful fixer ensured the world would never know. The man who played Superman couldn't save himself from the people who wanted him gone.